Hey, welcome. So listen, most of my videos don't have a specific demographic in mind, right? I just make videos for whomever. I offer some tips, tricks, hacks, all that sort of stuff for business and time management, whatever. And if you find it useful, then great. However, this video is a little bit different. Today, I'm talking to men, specifically married men with children. We're talking white-collar workers, folks who are holding down a career, or at least trying to hold down a career so they can provide for their families. Basically, people like me. I'm speaking to you because, well, I know something that you may not, and that is how you are going to feel and react come the inevitable AI layoffs that, well, they're going to hit us all. You see, I've been laid off and, well, fired more times than I care to count. I know, the common denominator in all these instances is me. So this is one area in which I'm sorry to say, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And it's coming, my friends. Artificial general intelligence is just around the corner. And when it gets here, our careers are over, at least in the way that we practice them today. So with that, let's fire this thing up. Our movie today, the lens through which we will examine how we will respond to these layoffs, it's The Incredible Shrinking Man, produced back in, 1957, I think it is. And despite the fact that it's like almost 70 years old, it is a superb allegory for these impending AI layoffs. The plot couldn't be more simple. Scott Carey, our protagonist, he's on vacation with his wife floating out on the ocean when this radioactive cloud comes over him. From a narrative standpoint, it's really not surprising that they would use radiation. It was totally the boogeyman of the 1950s. You look at any B sci-fi horror movie, and radiation is always the antagonist, the catalyst to whatever monster comes our way. So we're talking about Them, the really cool ant movie. It's a great movie. Even Godzilla. Anyway, I digress. Now, the boogeyman in the 1950s is radiation. Whereas today, come on, the boogeyman is AI. And just as in Scott is exposed to this radiation and is therefore launched into an unknown future, so too are you and I exposed to AI, and, well, we're kind of staring into the abyss. Soon after being exposed to this cloud of radiation, Scott begins to shrink. I mean, not a lot and not very fast. We're talking an inch or so every couple of weeks. But shrink he does. And eventually it becomes an all-out existential crisis for the man. So as I say, the premise is very simple, but the psychological exploration is anything but. So with that quick synopsis out of the way, let's look at 6 ways that these AI layoffs are going to, mess with our heads something ferocious. The first thing you're going to feel is a loss of control over things in your life. Like you are a passive agent being acted upon by forces that you can't name or even understand. We're talking about a loss of agency here. Whereas in the past in your life, you've had a seat at the table when it comes to making decisions on your behalf, right? What are you going to do with your life? All that good stuff. Well, when you lose agency, it feels like the chair at which you've been sitting at that table has been yanked out from under you. You have no say, no control, no agency over the direction of your life. I mean, think about it. During the layoff, when you're sitting across from your manager, if you're lucky, these days they lay off people via email and text. It's maddening. Anyway, When the manager delivers the news, you're just a passive agent. You're just there receiving the news that your career is over, the means by which you provide for your family has been taken away, and hand in your computer, hand in your badge and your gun. You have no say in this, and yet this is a traumatic impact on your life and identity. That's loss of agency. In the movie, Scott feels this when he feels forced to sell his story to the press just to make ends meet.
Scott, the story's going to break anyway, eventually. So whether you make them pay or not, they're going to make the most of it, so make them pay.
No, Charlie.
Well, think about it.
All right. I'll think about it.
But really, was there any choice? We owed a great deal of money, and I had no job. There was no choice, none at all.
You're also going to feel, well, diminished, loss of meaning and identity in your life. It's really quite incredible to think about how much of our identity and social standing is wrapped up in our careers. I mean, I'm a college professor, and that gives me a certain amount of social standing. It gives me a certain amount of income, a certain amount of identity and sense of self-worth, and so forth. More about that in a moment. So when this is taken away, it's really easy to start asking ourselves, if I'm not a professor who provides for his family, then what am I? This isn't just emotional. This is existential. People rely upon us, and if we cannot provide for them that which they require, our identity, it gets all jacked up. Now, when this happens, you are going to feel compelled to practice a certain amount of existential panic management. You are going to start getting busy. You can't just sit around. You will go cuckoo bananas. So you're going to start getting busy. You're going to start messing with things. You're going to start just kind of trying to busy your mind and your hands and your heart. We do this because busyness kind of simulates autonomy. We lost control, and so by choosing what we do and what we work on and so forth, we start to bring a certain amount of control and agency back into our lives. Now, men, we putter in the garage, we start to take on projects, we build furniture, we work in the yard, take up cooking, all kinds of things, right? Anything we can do to kind of keep the terror of feeling unnecessary at bay. In our movie, Scott starts to write a book, which is like the go-to terror management busyness task of 30% of white-collar workers. He even goes so far as to give himself deadlines, further building that scaffold of control and agency.
I'm 2 days behind on my book.
And yeah, for the record, when I was unemployed, I wrote books. In addition to this, you'll start to fear that you're becoming irrelevant. After all, the longer you're out of the workforce, the longer the workforce has learned to get on without you. And so at a certain point, you're going to feel like, is there even a place for me anymore? And to make matters worse, you're going to start to feel obsolete. Once again, the longer you're out of the workforce, the less connected you are to today's best practices, technologies, processes, systems, all that stuff. And so, yeah, your skills, they were last year's skills. They're not today's skills. That feeling's going to just weigh on you something fierce. In the movie, we can see Scott experiencing this type of irrelevance when the hot water heater in the basement floods. Now, as the man of the house, remember, this is 1957, folks. There are different gender expectations then. Anyway, as the man of the house, it's his job to take care of the appliances and to deal with emergencies and save the day riding in on his white horse and all that good stuff, right? But now he can't do that. He is unable to matter. He just doesn't matter. He even has to rely on other people to take care of the problems that were his responsibility to deal with. In essence, he's powerless. Power has been taken from him. And he's so powerless that he's basically unseen by his wife and his brother. Now, as if all of this isn't bad enough, you're going to start feeling like a burden to others, both financially and emotionally. Remember, we mentioned how Scott was unable to take care of the hot water heater and had to rely on others to do his job for him. This made him a burden.
The truth is, I just lost the Bannister account. You know how big that account was, probably 40% of my income. Well, it's gone now, and I just can't afford to send you your paychecks anymore.
This is especially acute for men who are the sole provider of the family. Now, I understand there aren't many sole providers anymore, but the point is, if you are the primary breadwinner and you can no longer provide but now have to rely on other people, that really messes with you. If a husband and father can't provide for his wife and children, then what good is he? That's going to get in your head. Scott all but explicitly tells his wife that he's a burden and she needs to just dump him.
No, I'm all right. Louise, I want you to start thinking about us, our marriage. Some awful things might happen. There's a limit to your obligation.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Look, I love you. Don't you know that?
You love Scott Carey. He has a size and a shape and a way of thinking. All that's changing now.
Not a darn thing's changed. I know I haven't. And as long as you've got this wedding ring on, you've got me.
His sense of self-worth is so tied up in his ability to provide for his wife that when that is taken away, so is his sense of worth and value as a man.
Easy enough to talk of soul and spirit and essential worth, but not when you're 3 feet tall.
No doubt you saw this one coming. Eventually, you're going to feel shame as well as anger toward the system that put you in this situation. Thing is, how do you direct that anger? I mean, you can't. Mike Lefebvre said it best when he says, you can't sock a system. You're essentially powerless to do anything. At least that's what you're going to feel. You're not really powerless, but you're going to feel it. Now, unfortunately, what often happens is you end up redirecting that anger and frustration toward those around you, those who are close to you. Your wife, your kids, your friends, folks who are trying to stand by you. You're going to take your anger out on them, or at least start to feel that impetus.
Try to be careful.
Are you going out?
Yes, for a little while.
Where?
Well, just to the corner, to the store.
You'll come right back?
Well, of course I will. Now, look, why don't you try to get some rest? You know Dr. Silver wants to see you again tomorrow.
All right, go ahead. Be sure the doors are locked.
This is just disastrous. Rage displacement, though. This is a real thing. You're also going to experience pain and discomfort when you compare yourself with others. After all, some of your friends and family, they still have jobs, and so this is going to kind of weigh on you. And then, well, you were probably laid off in concert with a bunch of coworkers, but these coworkers are going to start getting jobs. And that is just going to gnaw at you. Their success will kind of feel like an indictment of your failure. it makes no sense intellectually. I get it. But when you're in that space, you're going to feel this like a dagger to the heart. In the movie, when Scott realizes that he's shorter than somebody that he used to be taller than, well, all of a sudden, this sort of hope he had that he was a man again is ripped from him just because he's comparing his height to somebody else.
What is it, Scott?
2 weeks ago, I was taller than you. You said so yourself.
Yes, I remember, but...
Well, can't you see? I'm shorter now.
Oh, Scott.
Starting again. Starting.
You'll also be, well, you'll have less cognitive and emotional resources available to deal with problems and issues. You're going to notice that small inconveniences all of a sudden seem like insurmountable problems and challenges. It's because you just don't have the bandwidth and wherewithal to deal with this stuff. You're dealing with big existential crises right now. So when you get a flat tire, you're going to lose your shit. So you got to look out for this sort of thing. The movie kind of shows this by showing that a spider, something that Scott would just totally ignore in the past, is now a life-threatening force. You're also going to feel alone, sort of isolated from others, exiled from the world, if you will, even though nobody has actually explicitly exiled you except your employer. They showed you the door. But still, isolation is going to really weigh on you. It's awful because shame brings about withdrawal, and withdrawal reinforces shame. It's the vicious cycle personified. So yeah, you're going to self-isolate, or at least be tempted to self-isolate. I encourage you not to. But that drive is going to be there because you experience pain when you compare yourself with them, and you don't want that pain. You're afraid that you're being perceived as the guy who just couldn't hack it. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to peace out of society for a while.
My relationships with the world had ceased with everyone, except my wife. And I knew I was driving Lou from me.
Another reason that you're going to self-isolate is, well, people mean well. They want to help, but frankly, they really don't know how to. And so they're going to be pretty clumsy and ham-fisted about it. They're going to say things like, oh, you'll land on your feet, or everything happens for a reason. Again, they think they're helping, but what they're really doing is invalidating your feelings. And that's not what you need right now.
4 pounds.
Up or down?
Down.
Oh, well, that does it, my boy. You're going to start taking vitamins. I'm going to get you so fat on ice cream and cake, you'll think you're living in a child's paradise.
I don't think that's going to fix it, Lou.
Well, then we'll go and see a doctor, Annie. You do, Fritz.
Still get 5 foot 11 inches, Mr. Carey.
I've been 6'1" since I was 17.
Mm-hmm. What? You told me that you've been 6'1" since you were 17 years old.
That's right.
How many physical examinations have you had since then?
Oh, the draft board, in the Navy, the life insurance physical.
It's not too many, is it? And it's quite possible there might have been errors made on all of them as regards your height. Well, it very often happens.
They're also saying this, though, by the way, just to give you some empathy for them, because they're trying to quiet their own fears. When your wife says, oh, it'll be fine, everything will be just great, don't you worry about it, you take your time and so forth, she means it, she loves you, but she's also trying to tell herself, everything's fine, everything will work out, everything's okay.
Yes, I guess it's been a nightmare for you, too.
Yeah, she's sort of freaking out inside, too. Then, by the way, there are the ones that are really infuriating, okay? In the movie, Lou, Scott's wife, she says, gee, I know a lot of people who would like to lose a little weight.
Gee, I know a lot of people who'd like to lose a little weight. What's your secret?
You're going to have people come to you and say, gee, I'd love to have a little bit of spare time that I could catch up on my projects. As though getting laid off or fired is some gift that has been bequeathed to you and that you can now flourish and self-actualize in while they have to go into the salt mines and work for a living. Gee, I wish I had spare time to work on my projects. So yeah, with all this crap going on, you're going to want to self-isolate, which is going to bring about despair. These are a lot of heavy-ass feelings that we've discussed, and over time, they're going to start weighing down upon you. And when this happens, you are going to start to feel depressed, despair, and maybe worse. The movie shows this in really stark terms when Scott starts to oscillate between hope and despair. Despair that causes him to think about ending his existence.
Every day it was worse. Every day a little smaller. And every day I became more tyrannical, more monstrous in my domination of Louise. Heaven knows how she lived through those weeks. Only I had the power to release her. If I could find the courage to end my wretched existence. But each day I thought, perhaps tomorrow the doctors will save me.
So listen, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because, I want my videos to be fun and, upbeat and all that sort of stuff. And this is not one of those topics. We just need to recognize that these feelings can become debilitating to an extreme degree, and watch out for them. With that said, in the movie, Scott eventually comes to some sort of peace and resignation with his situation and chooses to move on into his future, his unknown future. However, one thing he says really cuts to the core of the existential crisis that we will be facing with AI.
I was continuing to shrink. To become what? The infinitesimal? What was I? Still a human being? Or was I the man of the future?
Just think about that as artificial general intelligence comes onto the scene and starts to take all the jobs of humanity. This video is a little out of character for me. Normally, I explore an idea, we talk about it, and I offer some tips, tricks, and hacks to how to deal with it, overcome it, and all that good stuff. But I really don't have too much to offer here. Like I said before, I've been through this many times, more times than I care to count. However, each time I've gone through it, the journey has been different. And so to say, well, this is how I did it, well, that would be disingenuous because I did it differently every time. What's more, this time feels different. Artificial intelligence is affecting us in new and unforeseen ways. Well, unforeseen unless you've watched the movies, right? Matrix and Terminator have been warning us for ages, right? Anyway, the point is, this feels different. So for me to offer any life advice and so forth, come on, speculation at best, bullshit more likely. That said, I do feel that there is value in taking the time to understand how we will likely respond when this happens, what we will feel, how we will act, how we will behave, and so forth. Because by knowing what's around the corner, we can start to prepare and perhaps put in place what's the word I'm looking for? Contingency plans. Batman, contingency. Put in place contingency plans and inoculate us against the very worst of these effects. Okay, there we go. That's all I've got for today. Now go off and make some trouble, and we'll talk again soon. Immutable AI layoffs that are coming our way. Is immutable the right word? Immutable. Unchanging or constant. No, that's not.